Hello everyone. Okay, well I thought I guess it was time that I made a video and let everybody know what's been going on. This whole purchasing of that church building or whatever has been an adventure to say the least. Where do I even start? As you can see, first of all, I'm still in the same place. I haven't moved, so obviously stuff hasn't happened the way I had hoped they would. And how do I explain the whole process that's been going on here? So I guess originally, I had found that church. I felt that it was time to make a move, and I started looking around, and ideally the very first thing that I needed to do was reduce my costs. And in order to do that, I just felt like I'm wasting my money giving away this rent money every month. I pay $800 a month rent in this tiny little house. And, that's $800 that I throw away every month that I could be putting towards something. And, I really feel that it's time to buy a property. And if I find a property at a low enough price, then it'll be way cheaper than rent. I could probably cut my monthly rental expense in half or even less. So I wanted to try and kill two birds with one stone, so to speak. So I wanted to try and find a church building, and I found that. And I went after it. As you saw in the videos in the past, I drove down there. I had a look at this place. I was, doing everything that I knew to do. I talked to the people. One question that I asked them right from the beginning was this building zoned as residential? And they told me it was. They advertised the building as a starter home for somebody. So we went through the process of trying to get, first of all, I had to meet with them. I had to drive down there a second time. It was a 4.5 hour drive a second time to meet with lawyers and to put in an official bid or an accepted offer, So we met with their lawyer and she wrote up a contract of purchase and we all signed it, everything else. And we did all of this stuff, and the lawyer seemed everything seemed all in order, and it was just no problem. Then I took that to my bank, and the bank went through their process of mortgage approval, and all this is, of course, is subject to financing. So the bank goes through their process of approval. And they come back to me saying that they won't approve it because the building is a church. And I'm like, but it's zoned residential. What difference does it make? If it's a church building or if it's the building itself is kind of a bungalow shaped building, what difference does it make if it was a church or not? I want to use it as a home now. Didn't make sense. The banker couldn't tell me why. They weren't getting any answers from the mortgage company. The lawyer didn't understand why it wouldn't go through. So I went to a mortgage broker, and the mortgage broker said they don't deal with this kind of stuff. So they sent me to a local credit union here. So I went there. And they went through the whole process of trying to get the place approved, and then eventually the same thing come back. No, they wouldn't approve the building because it's a church. And I'm like, how do they know it's a church? Like, what's going on here? What difference does it make? And it just didn't make sense. And this mortgage broker couldn't tell me the difference either. So we start doing research, and I'm studying and trying to figure out what's going on and trying to find out if there's some kind of regulations. How do these mortgage companies know that this is a church and all that kind of stuff? Well, and this took a bunch of time, and trying to figure this stuff out, calling around, calling the town office. Finally, we find out that the building was zoned as not commercial, but, well, zoned as a church, right? So either commercial or as a church. And because of that, I couldn't get a residential mortgage. And a residential mortgage here in Canada you can get with a 5% down payment. So, at, I forget what was 40,000, I think they had agreed upon. So then I would have to have $2,000 down payment, and I can afford that. But if the building is zoned as commercial or as a church, then I have to buy it as such with a business loan. And the business loan, I need at least 25% down, which is like $10,000. There's no way that I can do that. So they, because we didn't understand what was going on, and the owners of the church didn't understand all this stuff, they started to try and find a way to get the building rezoned so that we could continue to go ahead with the purchase. So then I had to, by then the time for financing, a couple of weeks or so ran out, so we had to extend the financing period and rewrite up with more lawyer stuff. So then that extended it out to over a month. And anyway, during this whole process, I'm thinking it's going to go through fairly quickly. I freed up my schedule so that I wasn't going to have to cancel appointments with you guys and cause problems with you guys and stuff like that. And, booking is, you guys have to wait for 2 or 3 weeks to get in, or even longer sometimes. And then all of a sudden I have to cancel on you because I'm in the middle of moving, or I'm still dealing with lawyers, or whatever. I have to pack, I have to, spend time packing and getting prepared to move, and then the whole moving process, and then transferring the internet and all that kind of stuff. I didn't want to, cause problems for you guys in scheduling and everything, and so it was hard, it was difficult. So then the period of time that I had scheduled for the move now got shifted to 2 more weeks or longer. And, then I'm going through this process of we're all going through the process trying to figure out how to get this place, rezoned and stuff like that. And in that process, I'm talking to the town office. It was ridiculous. The battle in this whole process of everything that's gone on has been crazy. It's been ridiculous. The resistance that's been there. Now, talking to the town office in Lemberg, where this church building is, and I'm just trying to ask questions about what does the building require to be zoned as residential. Does there need to be, a bedroom and a bathroom, and what I mean? Does it have to look like a house? Does this stuff have to be upstairs and not downstairs? Why are they rejecting this building? And we couldn't figure it out, and they wouldn't tell me. And all they would say is that you got to get a permit and get, paid $75 for this permit, and then submit your floor plans to the building inspector. And I'm like, but I don't have any plans. I'm not building anything. I just want to know if this building, the way it is livable as a residential place, so that we could. And they couldn't understand what I was trying to say. Like, they kept on switching it back to I have to give my building plans to the building inspector, and I'm like, that's not what I'm doing. I'm not building anything. And finally, I got a hold of the building inspector there, and he did the same thing, exactly the same thing. I just told him straight out, I just want to know if this building is livable the way it is as a residential property. And he is the same thing. You've got to get a permit. You've got to bring your floor plans, blah, blah, blah. I'm not any I'm not an interior designer. You can't expect me to design your building for you. But I'm like, what is going on? I just want to know if the way it is good. Anyway, in the process of all of this stuff, I'm researching and learning about the building code and as far as residential properties, and part 9 of the building code says all of this stuff. And in order for me to live in that place, in order for me to build any rooms or add walls or whatever, like to make a bedroom, all I needed was really to build 2 rooms and put in a shower in there. But to put in a wall, then I would need an egress window that needs to be cut out. I'd have to dig downside the basement and cut out the concrete, and just to put a bay, like a window that you can go out and escape in case of fire, all this fire code stuff. And it just became more and more and more of a headache as far as all that was concerned. Now, however, it didn't really matter anyway, because I couldn't buy that building no matter what. The church, they were still operating as a church. So when I asked them originally, right in the beginning, if it was zoned as residential, they told me yes. And they advertised it as a good starter home. But that wasn't true. It was zoned as a church. So they couldn't sell it anyway. See, they weren't paying taxes. The only way that they could sell that building is they would have to get it rezoned as residential, start paying taxes on the place, and then advertise it. And then they would be able to sell it as residential after all that work was done. So I couldn't buy it anyway. There was no way that I was going to get a mortgage the way it was. That was the issue. It wasn't so much all of the church, the structure of the place and whether it had bedrooms and bathrooms and all that. Well, that was some of it too. That's what they were saying, all of this kind of stuff to me. But nobody seemed to really know. And it took a month or over a month or so to get that sorted out. And by the time I had figured it out, I knew that I couldn't buy the place. There was just no way. There's nothing. It didn't matter all the plans that I was going to make to change the place or anything. I knew that I couldn't buy it as is. And then if I waited even longer for them to get it ready and rezoned and all that stuff, then I also started to realize that it was going to be a money pit. It was going to start costing me too much to make any changes. Plus, the more I understood about the little town, the more I understood that it was really a dead-end place. There was, it's like stuff is leaving. The hotel wasn't there anymore. It actually there was a fire, so the hotel a year ago had burnt. So the hotel was gone. There was a restaurant gone. All that was really left was a grocery store and a Chinese restaurant. And if I bought the place, I would never be able to sell it in the future for any more than what I bought it for. In fact, I'd have trouble selling it. So, if I was moving there, I was going to be staying there for basically forever. That's what I felt like, and it didn't feel like it was the right thing to do. So I backed out on the deal. And immediately I started to look for another property. And this time I just said, look, my original purpose was to reduce my costs. So I went looking for a house because I knew the problems trying to buy commercial properties and trying to buy church buildings and stuff. I knew that was going to be difficult. And so I started looking for a residential house. And I went online to the realtor.ca, Canadian realtor site, and immediately I found a house, like an 800 square foot bungalow house for $39,900, listed at $39,000, like lower than this church. And it's a nice house. It's got an attached garage on it. Inside it's got fridge, stove, washer, dryer. It's got dishwasher. It's got a jet tub. It's got, this is a nicer house than I've ever lived in my adult life, basically. And even in my childhood, possibly. So It was a really nice house for $39,000. That's ridiculous. Any house like this in the city that I'm living in now is probably $200,000 house, and I didn't understand. So I'm like, wow. And I called the realtor, got in touch with her, and started to question. And she told me that there was a sewer backup, and that's why the house is so cheap, and it hadn't been taken care of yet. And I'm like, okay, well, whatever. I mean, mold's been around forever. I'm not scared of mold. It just needs to be cleaned out, and we can. Once that's done, I can do that myself. I can hire my kids to come in, and we'll get in there with some masks on, and we'll go rip out the stuff that needs to be cleaned out, and bleach it or follow whatever. So I started to study all of this stuff about how to clean out the basement and how to get this. In the meantime, I put an offer in on the building, take it to my banker, and this time I go back to the credit union, because I was thinking that my my original bank, I was thinking that they didn't try very hard before. So I went to the other bank, and I thought they would be able to help. Plus they had told me that they would have approved me for the mortgage, but they didn't approve that other building. So we go through the process with the credit union bank with this new house, and I'll put some pictures in when I edit this. And everything goes through. I'm approved for the mortgage, but not the building. And I'm like, oh wow, now what? And so basically, the person that I was buying the building from was actually one of the major mortgage companies. They're called Genworth, and they actually back all the mortgage. Oh, they're a major mortgage, not brokerage, but the main company that gives the mortgages, insurers. And they didn't want nothing to do with that building. They wanted to get rid of it. They were completely afraid of the mold and the after effects of it and everything, which is actually ridiculous. But in my opinion, it's ridiculous. This whole mold situation has got people freaked right out, beyond what it should be. But anyway, so they rejected it. But in the meantime, I'm doing all of this stuff, trying to learn how to get the mold out, that kind of thing. So I'm back at my other bank, and I decided to talk to my original mortgage broker at my bank about this building. And she's like, oh, well, we can do a mortgage plus improvement, and all you got to do is go get some quotes, get a quote or whatever for the removal of the mold, and we'll just add that to the mortgage, and we'll get the mortgage. I'm like, okay, good, perfect. So I go and I'm doing more research, and I finally, and then by then I had to add some more time for financing again. There's always that when you put in a bid for a property, you put in a subject to financing, and I have to have my financing in by a certain time. So this is weeks later, and now I have to put an extension on that, so that I do that. They allow me to do that, and so I've got this property now tied up for a month, and I'm trying to get approval for it. So I go to a company, the restoration company here in Prince Albert, and I send them all these pictures. I send them all the square footage of what's going on with the house and the basement and everything. And she says that she'll do a quote for me, and I need it really quickly because my time is by now the time is running out for getting financing approval, and I need it quickly. And she's telling me it's going to take her a week to get me this quote, and I'm like, oh. So I push her and pressure her a little bit, and I get it. It did take about 6 days with a weekend to get it, but so I wasted a bunch of time that way. Anyway, I finally get the quote, and it's 24 something, just about $25,000 to remove the mold and then restore the room. And I'm just like, are you kidding me? This is absolutely ridiculous. It's completely, out of proportion. It's not nowhere near where it should be. So then I'm in a panic now because I have to get this financing approved soon. The realtor's telling me that there's some cash buyer that wants to buy the place, and they're waiting, and they're telling me that I'm not going to get another extension to get this property purchased. And I'm trying to get it purchased, I'm trying to get this through because the thing about it is, in the community where that house is, once the mold is removed from that building, the value of that home goes from, I actually had an accepted offer at $35,000. Once the mold is removed, not even restored, just the mold removed and cleaned out, and the house would double it, at the least it would double in value. It would go from $35,000 to $70,000. And then I could move in there, do a bunch of cleanup, paint, stuff like that was neglected on that house, and it could be up to $80,000-$90,000 house. So then the ministry would have, $30,000-$40,000 of equity. And I'm just like, I've found a diamond in the rough here, and I've got to get this thing, I've got to get this deal done. Because the whole time, the whole purpose of me buying a house, first of all, is to reduce my monthly bills, monthly costs. But secondly was, what was I going to say? Secondly, I still have the idea, and I believe the Lord is leading, that He's going to provide a place for the ministry. This house, it had a finished basement, and that in that basement, I was going to use the basement part to set up as the ministry space. But eventually, I knew that it was either I would live there, minister out of there as long as I could, and then with that equity and everything, then I could go and purchase a ministry space eventually. Or maybe I would stay there. I don't know. We'll have to see what the Lord was going to do with it all. But regardless, I was in this process of trying to get this property, and it was urgent for me because it was valuable. There was a lot of, equity value there for me and for the ministry, and would have been really good. So this realtor's telling me that there's this cash buyer, and the company Genworth is not going to extend my, the time I had available to get financing. So I start pushing my banker to get this done. And so in the end, the bank comes back to me and says, no, you can't buy the building. And they tell me this time it's because I have an income tax bill to pay. And the money that came in from everybody when I was asking for help to buy this building, there was enough money that came in so that I had enough for the down payment of this house. And it's been amazing because the exact amount of money came in to cover all of my costs as far as the house is concerned, as far as the down payment's concerned, and even insurance for my vehicle, because I had to have that looked after too recently. And all of this money came in, closing costs, everything would have been there. So I've got that money there. But no money has come in for my income tax. I just don't understand. For the last 3 years, I've done income tax, and the Lord has provided for me in this ministry exactly what I need as far as living expenses and stuff, just about to the dollar for the last 3 years. No extra, no short, not short, but no extra whatsoever. But he has not provided for the income tax, like the income tax that I owe. And that's been about $4,500. Well, actually, I did pay down $1,700 of it. So now it's down to $3,000. But that, I don't understand. To me, I'm just like, Lord, why are you providing for my daily expenses and living expenses and everything else and ministry costs, but not the income tax? I just don't understand that. So in order for me to get the mortgage, I have to pay the income tax bill, is what they're telling me. And I explained to them, both the credit union and my bank, that I would pay that off using my Visa, because I have about $8,000 credit there, space on my Visa to use. So they wouldn't accept that at my bank in this final bid to get this house. And now I'm just like, oh man, so now what? I guess we're done. I guess I'm not getting this house. And then I just went to war that night. I went, and all the time, this whole process has been all of this, it's been a roller coaster of trying to figure out how to get this done, and with both buildings and everything else, and then blockages and barriers here and there and everything else. And then it seems like my banker's not trying very hard to get this through again. And anyway, all of a sudden I just went to war. That day that I found out, I turned on some witchcraft, prayers against witchcraft, and I just warred for over 2 hours, just warring and praying in tongues and battling against all kinds of witchcraft and everything, because there's been so many barriers. And then the next morning, my banker calls me again, and she says, well, I decided to contact my general manager, and they said it's okay. It's good news. It's okay if you pay off your income tax bill with your Visa, then you'll have a receipt that it's paid for. We can continue with the mortgage. And I'm like, okay, that's awesome. So let's, I got approved. Now, by the end of the week, and by the end of the cutoff time, I was completely approved financially for the mortgage. I was approved by another mortgage company called CMHC. Everything, I had full approval. Not, it wasn't, written. I didn't have a letter or whatever, but I had full approval from the bank that I had financing. And that's all I needed. But there was a subject to an appraisal of the building. That was it. They wanted to go look at the building and see if it was really worth the $35,000 or $40,000 that I was asking for. And the reason I say $40,000, because I got approved at $35,000, but in the meantime, I got a second quote for cleanup from an actual family member of mine in my hometown, and his family has been a realty for 50 years, 40 years, some more than that. I don't even know. All my life, his parents were realtors, and then he became, he started a company 25 years ago called The Clean Team, and that's what he did. He cleaned houses like this. When there were sewer backups, he came and cleaned, he ripped it out, he did all of this work. That's what he did for all these years. Now he looks after, hood vents and restaurants and whatever, it doesn't matter. He decided to come out and do a quote for me. So while he came out, this is about a week and a half before the financing was supposed to be approved, he came out and did a quote. And while he did this quote, we were all there, me and the realtor. And the realtor, we were walking around in the basement looking at all the mold and stuff, and he's like, oh, this is nothing. But, 25 years that I've been in business, I've seen way worse than this. There's nothing to this, And so the realtor says to him, oh, well, that's good to know, because that cash buyer that was interested, he came and looked at the place, and when he saw the mold, he backed out. And she had called me and told me good news, you don't have to worry, and about this cash buyer. And this was earlier, just at the time when I got another extension for financing. So he had come and looked at the place, backed out because he didn't want to deal with the mold. Now she says, oh, well, this is good news. Now I know that it's not such a big deal, because I didn't know what to tell him, she says. She's telling me this, and the guy that I hired to come in to clean the mold, she's telling us, oh, I didn't know what to tell this other buyer, because I've never dealt with this kind of a situation before. So then I've got a week and a half to get my financing in place. All of a sudden, 2 days later, she's contacting me and telling me that I cannot get an extension no matter what, even if I need just a few days or whatever to finish the financing, because there's a cash buyer involved again. So she took the information that I had given, that I had hired these companies to come and give me quotes to figure out the mold removal. She took that information back to this other buyer. Now this cash buyer is involved again, and I can't get an extension to finish getting my financing in place because they could sell it to a cash buyer instead. And then I'm scrambling now to get the financing in place. And right the very last day, at 15 minutes to 5 on the Friday of the last day of my financing approval, that's when I got the full approval, subject to an appraisal. So then the CMHC company was going to contact the realtor and make the appointment to come and appraise the building, and then I would have had the financing. That's all that needed to be done. And it was all in place. Everything was done. So she says, okay, well, I'll contact Genworth Company to see if they'll give us that extension. And over the weekend, Monday morning, I get the call back saying no, they wouldn't do it. So I was like, are you kidding me? This mortgage broker used my information against me to sell it out from under me. The information that I paid for, that I hired, the people that I hired to come in. And it's, to be honest, it's an ethics violation. I hired her as a dual agent. She's supposed to look after me and them, the seller and the buyer, at the same time, and not use information from me to help the seller. She's not supposed to do that. It's against her ethics, and it's signed in our contract. So I could have probably gotten her into trouble or whatever, but regardless, the whole time, now everything that I'm telling you is all the natural stuff, right? What's gone on in the natural. And, because of all of this stuff, you know what I mean? All this, because of the mold and because the church building wasn't zoned as residential, there was a lot of stuff that was going on. And it had to happen that way. That's just the way it is. But the way the people were thinking about all of this stuff, how the decisions that they were making because they were afraid of mold, fear was involved. And then this woman, I don't know what's going on with this cash buyer thing. Maybe she knows this cash buyer. I don't know. But she didn't try very hard to get me. Once she found out that the mold removal was easy and it wasn't that bad, this property was like a little gold mine in a sense, because it would go from $35,000 value to $70,000 just like that, as soon as, within a few days, once that mold is removed. And that doesn't normally happen when you buy a property. It doesn't matter what property you buy it at regular market value. This one was being sold way under market value because of the mold. So, to be honest, I don't know what's going on with this mortgage broker or with this realtor, but I knew that I was supposed to be in that place. I knew that was supposed to be my place. maybe it would have been temporary, because I did feel that that was the case, that this was a temporary step until the Lord has a ministry place for me in the future. The same thing with that church down south. I knew that that was kind of a temporary thing too, but then it didn't pan out that way, and I knew I didn't want to get trapped there, so I got out of that deal. Then this house, though, I feel like that was stolen from me. I literally feel that I was supposed to have that place, and this realtor stole it from me. I really feel that spiritually, that that's what happened. So basically there was nothing I could do. There was nothing I could do to hang on to that place. It's the deal is going through and with the cash buyer, and I'm out. So that's where things are. Now, in the process of all of this stuff, I haven't been scheduling sessions for people because I didn't know when I was going to be available. I was busy with all of this stuff. I didn't know when it was time for me to start packing and then moving. And I didn't know how I could schedule people. And I didn't want to schedule people and then have to cancel on them, and all the rejection that comes from that and everything else. I mean, that's what I've been going through for all this time. I've been wanting to put a video out, but I never had any answer. I didn't have a final, something to give you. And even now, I'm still not quite there, because I've actually found another house in another town that I put a bid in on. Just yesterday, I put the bid in on this other place, and it's just it's a nice little house with a attached garage and whatever, and it's a really nice little house, and hopefully I can get that. We'll see. But it doesn't have all the extra equity that this last place had. It doesn't have it. Basically, there should be no little issues that can cause me problems with CMHC or with the mortgage companies or with the bank or with anybody. Everything's it's got a brand new furnace, brand new water heater, new shingles 6 years ago. Everything about the house is new. You know what I mean? It's all been restored, new. There should be no issues whatsoever, and it's in a price that I could afford, and we'll see how that all goes. Anyway, as far as scheduling and all that stuff goes, though, I haven't been able to do it. I just, how can I schedule people and know that I'm going to be there for them when their scheduled time comes up? I just don't know. And still things are in the air. But I want to open up to do some impromptu sessions. So, because I know you guys have been waiting. I've had lots of people emailing me wanting to book appointments, and I haven't been responding. And so if you've been wanting to book an appointment with me, I want you to email me again, and I'll get back to you, and we'll just set up a time where we can both meet on Skype, and I'll just do them. I won't book them the way I have been booking in the past. So, and I won't be able to take everybody that comes. I'll just be, randomly kind of picking people that I can pray for when I have time and when we can set something up. So you can go ahead and email me at themthatbelieve@yahoo.com to set those meetings up. Anyway, it's been a real battle, I'm telling you, to get a property The devil does not want me to wants me throwing away money, stealing. There's some form of robbery, witchcraft going on against all of this stuff. I mean, that would have been a major blessing to get that last house. Remove the mold, and I would have had $30,000-$40,000 of equity sitting there, just like that. And I was, the first one to move on that. I was the first one to get involved with that building when it came out, and it was just stolen right out from under me. So, keep praying for this ministry, because the battle in this type of ministry and the depths that the Lord has taken us is trying to do everything He can to disrupt and to stop me, and finances is one. This whole process of going through this has cost me a lot of money. I've had to drive 4.5 hours a couple of times to that place. I had to pay lawyer fees. I had to pay for the quotes for the mold removal from that one company in particular. I had to pay them. Just little gas costs and fees, and then the money that's all came in has been, basically I've spent every bit of money that I have in order to get this property, and that's what it's going to take. It's going to take every bit of money that I have available here to get the deal done, to pay the closing costs and like the lawyer fees, and to cover insurance and everything. It's going to take everything that I have to do it, but I need to do it, because if I stay here, I'm just throwing money away, and I don't want to do that, So, first of all, I want to thank everybody that sent money. I know that it was supposed to be for this church building, but it's just not time yet, I guess. I believe that that's coming. There will be a ministry space at some point, but there's a stepping stone in the middle here. I've got to get another property where I can reduce my costs, and then I can really start to save. I can start to, put money away for that other place, whatever it's going to be. So I appreciate every single one of you that has donated and given to this project. Thank you so much. It's not wasted. It's, we're going forward and pray that this new house deal goes through. And, thank you so much for all of your prayers, all of your support. Without you guys, I wouldn't been able to keep going. And that's the purpose of all of this, is so that I can keep this ministry going forever. The donations had been slowing down recently, and since I haven't posted any videos, they've slowed right down and just about completely stopped now. Since I haven't been posting videos, people don't know what's going on. So I'm still here. I'm still fighting to get this ministry, get myself a place where I can live in and minister from and not be throwing money away. So, continue supporting, please. I thank you so much for it all. I truly appreciate every dollar that comes in, every bit of prayer that you guys pray for me. It's needed. I've been battling to get this done. And, I just felt it's time that I give you guys an update of where we're at. Now, once this new property goes through and I'm able to purchase it, because I'm pretty sure this is going to go through. There's no barriers like the other two buildings, so it should go through fairly simply. And once that happens, then I'm going to be moving. And I found out through the internet company that I'll have really fast internet, as fast as I have in the city here. It's a smaller community, very small community where I'm moving to, like 700 people, but where I would be moving to if it goes through. But the internet quality there is good, but the setup time, they said, was like to the end of January it's going to take. So I don't know exactly what I'm going to do for internet once I get there. There could be a big delay for that high speed, that really, really fast internet. Possibly I can get a slower internet in the meantime while I wait for the install of the faster internet. I'm not sure. But these are barriers that I'm going to have to face, and so just bear with me as I'm going through this whole process. It's going to take some time to get everything back to the way it is now, and in the process of all of this, I pray that the Lord has given me direction. I mean, as far as new things that He wants to do in the ministry, that kind of stuff. Yeah, we'll see how it all plays out. And I also want to say too that this whole process has been a real learning experience for me, because I learned so much about what it takes to purchase commercial or religious properties, church properties. There's a whole bunch of extra stuff that needs to be considered, which I didn't understand, and it didn't seem like anybody else understood either. Everybody in the process of this, they didn't understand either, and so it took a bunch of research. I had to figure it out, calling all these people, and anyway, figuring all this stuff out, building inspectors and all that kind of stuff, and I've learned a lot from it, and I'll be prepared. I'll be way more prepared when the time does come to do this. It should be a much smoother process in the future. So, and then I also, just the spiritual aspect behind what's going on, the witchcraft, the blockages, just watching and seeing how all the different parties are responding and reacting to fear and possibly greed and just the Jezebel spirit as well, working in the background to block stuff, and the witchcraft that's being done. So it's a lot to take new ground and get new ground. It's a real battle, and I'm learning a lot from it. So I think that's what the Lord is, why the Lord has allowed me to go through all of this stuff. And we'll see how it all turns out. But anyway, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your patience. Your prayers and support are very, very needed and appreciated. I love you all, and we'll see you soon. God bless. If this ministry has blessed you in any way, please consider donating by PayPal so that I can continue to bless others as well. God bless you.
Come thou long expected Jesus, born to set thy people free from our fears and sin.